The message arrived at 11:47 p.m., glowing on my phone like a mistake that refused to disappear, and the moment I read it, my entire understanding of my boss shattered. It wasn't meant for me. It was soft, hopeful, deeply personal, and written by someone who sounded tired of being strong. In that instant, standing alone in my small apartment in Ohio with snow tapping against the window, I realized that sometimes fate doesn't knock politely. It slips through a crack and changes everything before you can stop it. Before the story pulls you deeper, pause for a second. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet miracles that show up when we least expect them, take a moment to like this video. Share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this live because of hearts like yours. My name is Matthew Collins, and I worked as a project coordinator for a mid-sized architecture firm in Columbus, Ohio. My boss, Rebecca Turner, was known in the office as brilliant, disciplined, and emotionally untouchable. She was the kind of woman who walked through hallways like she owned time itself, never rushed, never late, always in control. People admired her, feared her, and assumed her life was perfectly assembled. I was just another employee to her, or so I thought, someone who stayed late, fixed mistakes quietly, and never crossed the invisible line between professional and personal. That night, her accidental message changed everything. It wasn't romantic in the way movies make romance loud. It was a Christmas wish written like a confession to God or the universe. A list of things she missed rather than things she wanted. She wished for a quiet Christmas morning without loneliness echoing through her house. She wished for laughter that didn't feel forced. She wished for someone to see her not as a title, but as a woman who had carried too much alone for too long. By the time I finished reading, my chest felt heavy, like I had been trusted with something fragile and sacred by mistake. I didn't reply. I couldn't. I stared at the screen until it went dark, wondering how someone so powerful could sound so human, so broken in places no one noticed. The next morning at work, Rebecca was all professionalism again. Crisp blazer, calm voice, no sign of vulnerability. I told myself to forget it. I told myself it wasn't my place. But life rarely listens when your heart has already decided to pay attention. 2 days later, she asked me to stay back after a meeting. Her tone was neutral, but her eyes carried something uneasy. She explained that she had sent me something by accident, something private, and instead of pretending it never happened, she wanted to acknowledge it. She didn't apologize in a dramatic way. She simply admitted that the wish was real. And then, in a moment that felt surreal, she asked if I could help make it real. Not as an employee following orders, but as a person offering kindness during a season that magnifies emptiness. That request became the challenge of my life. I wasn't rich. I wasn't powerful. I couldn't rewrite her past or erase her losses. Rebecca had lost her husband years earlier to a sudden illness, and grief had pushed her deeper into work until success became a shield. I struggled with my own doubts, wondering if I was crossing a line that could cost me my job or my self-respect. Yet something told me this wasn't about romance or risk. It was about answering a human need with honesty. I started small. I asked about her favorite traditions without prying, learning that she once loved baking, that she missed attending midnight services, that she used to volunteer at a shelter before life hardened her schedule. I offered to help organize a small office charity drive, framing it as a team effort, knowing it would bring her closer to something she had lost. Slowly, I watched her soften, not dramatically, but in tiny ways that mattered. Her smiles lingered longer, her shoulders relaxed. She began leaving the office earlier, choosing presence over productivity. As Christmas approached, the snow grew heavier, and so did the emotions neither of us named. We spent time preparing donations, visiting community events, and sharing quiet moments that felt sacred without needing labels. There was no dialogue full of confessions, no sudden declarations, just shared silence that felt warm instead of empty. I struggled internally, torn between professionalism and a growing care that felt both dangerous and right. She struggled too, learning to accept help without feeling weak. On Christmas Eve, we volunteered together at a local shelter in downtown Columbus. The air smelled of soup and pine, and the room was filled with people who understood loss in different ways. Watching Rebecca serve meals, laugh gently with strangers, and bow her head in quiet prayer, I realized that her wish was already coming true. She wasn't alone. She was seen. And in helping her, I had healed parts of myself I didn't know were broken. Before we reach the ending, I want to ask you something from the heart. Please comment below and tell us where you're watching from and whether you believe small acts of kindness can change a life. Your words matter more than you know. Later that night, I returned to my apartment, expecting to feel empty again, but instead I felt full. My phone buzzed, not with a dramatic message, but with a simple note of gratitude from Rebecca, thanking me for reminding her who she used to be. There was no pressure, no promise. Just appreciation that felt honest. I realized then that love doesn't always arrive as a romance. Sometimes it arrives as respect, care, and the courage to show up when someone lets their guard down. Christmas morning came quietly. Snow covered the streets like a fresh beginning. I imagined Rebecca waking up in her house, not surrounded by noise but no longer crushed by silence. Days later, at work, nothing had changed on the surface. Yet everything felt different underneath. There was mutual understanding, a shared secret of humanity that made the office feel warmer. We continued working together, boundaries intact, hearts wiser. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that even the strongest people carry silent wishes, please take a moment now to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Your engagement helps stories like this reach others who need hope during difficult seasons. Looking back, I understand that the real miracle wasn't fulfilling a Christmas wish. It was learning that kindness doesn't need permission, that vulnerability is not weakness, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is respond with compassion when life accidentally shows you someone's heart.